webinar today. I'm Falguni Vaiparik. I'm a solicitor and partner at SmartMove Immigration. We advise on immigration and nationality laws, been advising for the last 15 years. We represent clients in expanding their footprints in different countries. Also, we represent a lot of high net worth clients for permanent residency and second citizenship programs. So little bit more about who we are. So we are basically an immigration law firms, we qualified lawyers and solicitors. I myself am a solicitor from the United Kingdom, governed by the Law Society of England and Wales. We've been advising for the last, since 2009, so almost a decade, been here in this domain of advising in immigration matters. We've consulted more than 7,500 clients globally, just not in India, but worldwide, and we've successfully represented thousands of them. We have clients all over the world, in Middle East, South Africa, Indonesia, USA, Bangladesh. A very good success rate, and our presence is in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and in this metro cities. These are a few of the clientele, as you see on our slides here, which we have represented in India for their applications. And the other parameter that we have nowadays is to judge or find out how good a particular firm is. So we have a social media ratings which have been put up here to help to understand the kind of work that we've done. So how do we do this? We do a pre-screening. So we find out which country would you be selecting, and depending upon your lifestyle, depending upon the budget, depending upon which stage in life are you into, we suggest if there are any other good options available. And the fact that we do quite a lot of countries help us to give you an advice to say if this better suits you than the other. Unlike, there are some firms which are confined to only dealing with a particular country, then they don't have a clue about how does the other one work. But in our case, since we deal with multiple countries, we'll be able to advise you on if this works better than the other, or if there could be another option which would be better suiting you in your particular circumstances. Of course, then the execution part of it there to ensure that you have the right amount of paperwork and you have the right kind of representation being made to the authority, including settling now in that new country. So as far as is possible, we provide in-country support as well for Portugal Golden Visas and good universities to study. There are very aged old universities which are available for higher education for the children. There's a healthcare facility offered by in-country government, etc. So you have very good healthcare system in place up over there. So it takes box quite a lot of things when somebody tries to view in to say, because sometimes it just takes one of the aspects to say it's got a good scenic beauty and a good climatic condition. But if you are a person, or if you're an applicant going in with the family, you would want to consider, how about the education? What do you think the education systems is in Portugal? Then it tick box that as well, because there has been some very good universities in Portugal already. Sometimes the consideration is about the healthcare. Is there a very good healthcare facilities available? Then again, it ticks box that. So there's quite a lot of things that get tick box. Now, why are we discussing this as important? Because some of the countries, they spend quite a lot of money to get in that country, to get that citizenship, to get the permanent residency. But what if it doesn't meet some of the key requirements? Then it defeats all the purposes for you to be in there. You feel bad about doing a lot of investments, and you still haven't got very many things right in terms of in place for helping the other aspects of your personal and professional lives. So to that extent, Portugal meets the requirements, and therefore has been a very, very preferred destination for a lot of high net worth clients to enter into. For instance, beyond this, what you see here, there's a very good tax regime as well. So the first 10 years, they have a very separate tax regime under which you don't end up paying a high amount of taxes, etc., which protects your wealth. It protects your interest to that extent. Of course, whatever you earn in Portugal, you have to pay taxes for that bit there. But then they have the non-habitual tax regime which is put in place, which is another very good attraction. The limited amount of stay in Portugal, sometimes that's the attraction on why Portugal is gaining popularity, because you are thinking of getting another citizenship or another permanent residency, getting yourself into another permanent residency program, but you're not quite ready to kind of wind up from your home country. You require some time, and this is not a time like a month or 2 months or 3 months. Sometimes your commitments in your home country, in your businesses, are very many, and it requires you a few years till you're able to kind of uproot yourself and are ready to start new in a new country. So it gives you that kind of a space, it gives you that kind of a time to start yourself in a new country. So that all appeals quite a lot to people who are deciding to enter into Portugal. So what is the way to enter Portugal? What is Portugal Golden Visas? Is something that we're going to speak in the next, in my next coming up slides on what is this Portugal Golden Visas. This is basically investing in your future. So there's a lot of investment, I'm sure we're all doing here in our home country. And with this investment, what do we get? We get a capital appreciation, we get rental incomes, we create assets, and these assets, these capital appreciations and everything is for you and your offsprings and for your children. So it adds to your wealth, basically, when you do purchases. In the same way, when you are buying an asset in Portugal, or you're entering Portugal through investment route, besides getting the capital appreciations and your rental yields and maybe dividend on your investments, you are also getting something more, which is you're getting a right, you're getting a plan B for yourself and your family, which will open up the doorways of another new country for you and your family there. So this is literally an investment in your future to that extent. And the reason why this particular program has been very popular, because it's very flexible. It gives you the residence benefit, but it's not taxing. You know, the reason why I'm emphasizing on this one here, because we do quite a lot of countries, and you realize that, you know, and in some countries, you have to be there for, say, 180 days. You have to be physically staying in that country. Sometimes that's a challenge. You cannot do that. Some of the countries have a longer duration to get through with your nationality applications. Again, that becomes a challenge, because you don't want something very, very long to take ages for it to materialize. So in this sense, Portugal Golden Visa is just right. It offers you quite a lot of flexibility. It gives you a residence benefit. It allows not only your children, but even your dependent parents to join in. They appreciate the family as a unit, and therefore, unlike some other country and some other programs that are run in different countries, they may not allow your parents to go in, and that makes your decision difficult, because you're responsible for your old aged parents, or just, even if they're not old, you still want to be together with your parents wherever you start on. And of course, the flexibility that we spoke about, you literally are only required to be there for a week in the first year and 2 weeks from the subsequent years. So in that sense as well, it gives you that freedom. So you're sowing your seeds, you're doing whatever you're doing in your home country, that is kind of materializing into something in a term kind of a thing, which is not taking very long, and it's not the short-term timelines, but it's a mid-term, which is a good amount of time. And by that time, you're able to plan your exit, if at all you're planning your exit from your home country to this new place that you've signed in for. And another good reasons in terms of the requirements that the Golden Visa has, it has no age limit. I have got clients who come to me and say, I just want to retire in some place in Europe. And if that's the plan, you know, at the retirement age, you're not very young, but you still are able to get yourself into this program. I do come across clients who are saying, but you know, they're doing their graduation or they're doing their post-graduation, and then they would want to have a plan B. Again, this is quite fitted for them because they don't really have an age limit there. There's no management experience, English language requirement, educational requirements. The only thing they need is that, you know, you have a valid passport, you are a legal resident, and you have money for investment, which is a legitimate money to invest in that country. So the requirements are pretty straightforward and they're very easy to comply with. So how does one enter into the Golden Visa Program? And basically, there are about 8 routes under which you can enter into the Golden Visa Program. The first one is capital investment. So you invest about 1 million in that country and you can enter into. I haven't seen very many people doing application under this category. Even when I speak to a lot of clients globally, it has got very less incentive for an investor to invest this kind of a money to enter into the program. So capital investment is not very popular, though it's there in theory. So just in case anybody's thinking about doing it, it's 1 million as an investment. You need to have it as a bank deposit or in securities or equity in the company in Portugal, and you can enter in as an investor. The other 2 are the most popular ones there, which is the real estate basically. And that has been traditionally the most important or the most viable route to enter into Portugal since the inception of the program, which is from 2012 to date. This has been the very, very popular route, is people buying in a property, investing an amount there, and then it's buy-to-let property. You can give it out on a rent, or you can also opt to stay there, depending upon what you want to do there, and you can get into the program. The other most popular route, which has been since the pandemic of March 2020, has been the bonds, where people put in an investment money in the bonds and they can enter in. These bonds are like the mutual funds that you have in India, and they have fund managers again, just like what we have with the mutual funds. You speak to the fund manager, you find out where they're going to put in your investments. They speak about the different projects that they're going to put in your monies into, the different industries that they're going to put in your amounts there. And these are governed by the CMBM, which is a regulated security exchange of Portugal. And therefore they're allowed to be there. But again, just like your mutual funds and your this particular fund investments, they are subject to market risk. So there is this fine print, and they would play that, you know, everything is good, but this is all subject to market risk. You could also start a business by creating 10 full-time employment, but here again, you have to ensure that you're complying with the employment laws. The numbers should not come down below 10 at any given point of time. And all the compliance is related to employment, work, social security, taxes, deduction of taxes from the employee, paying to the authority. Everything has to be up to mark. A lot of big companies like Google, Amazon, and other big companies have their back offices there, and their strengths are, of course, more than 10 employees, and they can enter into the Golden Visa Program. The next one is investment in the art and heritage. But again, there has been, since the inception, there hasn't been very many projects where you can invest into art and heritage projects in Portugal. So given this 8, we will focus on the popular ones because that makes sense. These are the practical ones, and these are the ones which most of the applicant will be go to. You have real estate and you have bonds, which is like the investment fund route to enter into Portugal. Now, real estate has been traditionally the way to enter into the program. And very simply, you can just buy an asset, which is a residential or a commercial. And this can be buy to let, or if you're really planning to uproot yourself, you can actually stay there. So I was just speaking to a client last week, and we were discussing to buy a property, and his plans were to buy a residential and then also a commercial, and then give commercial on buy-to-let basis and stay in the residential, which means that it gives some kind of a passive income whilst they're still in Portugal and they're staying there. So that can be done. And you can invest. So you see there are 3 levels that you see here. The amount of investment in single or multiple property should be about 500,000 euros as I speak to you today in 2021. If you're looking into something that is refurbished, then it can be 350,000 euros with the refurbishment charges. So an old property, which is about 30 years old, there's quite a lot of old properties in Portugal, which gets refurbished. And that refurbished property, if it's costing 350,000 euros, then you can enter by buying that property into the program. Alternatively, if you're looking into a smaller investment, then you can invest in low density areas. And this is about for 280,000 euros of a purchase that you make that allows you to get into the Golden Visa programs. So mostly if you're looking into Portugal as a country, you see Lisbon, Porto are 2 places which are very, very popular. These are like it's got a lot of people who have the demand and supply for residential and commercial properties quite high in these particular places. And these are the places where you can't go wrong in terms of your investment. Now, somehow this has been a thought before the pandemic, and with the pandemic, the dynamics have changed quite a lot. So with the pandemic now, people didn't want to live in a metro, just like I think we experienced this in India as well. People wanted to have a bigger houses. They didn't mind going little outside the main metro cities, towards the B cities, or even to a countryside, as that matter of fact, so that they can have a spacious place and which has got good connectivity and things like those. So something similar has also happened in Portugal. With the pandemic, the low density areas suddenly started becoming the preferred places because it had a bigger rooms, it had bigger space, a lot of open spaces, and low cost of living, basically. And that's the reason why that suddenly has been the new thing since the last about 1.5 to 2 years. That has happened in Portugal. So coming back to real estate, very simply, you go in, you like the property, you buy the property, you pay the stamp duty, you pay the registration, you pay the municipality charges. If it is furbished, good for you. If it's not furbished, you put in some white goods because you need some refurbishments to be done before it's up and running to be given out on a rentals. You can give it a short-term rents, on a long-term rents, you can give it out on an Airbnb. There are specific agencies who can take care of making sure that your property is always occupied, and you always have tenants who will be renting out your property. And of course, they charge you a small fee for managing your property to that extent, but it helps if you do that. And at the end of it, after 5 years, you can sell this property. And whatever capital appreciation you get in, you can take home. And what else you can take home is your Portuguese passport. So after 5 years, you become a Portuguese national. And you make an application to get the Portuguese passport, and you sell away the investment. You liquidate it at the market rate, and whatever premium or appreciation you get in is what you earn besides the Portuguese passport that you get in. The other one is the bond or the investment fund, which is something that has got very, very popular post-pandemic. And the reason why this has got popular is because it's a financial security which can be brought online. So you can go online. There's a lot of diversity there. It's not confined only to real estate. Like most of the funds will be speaking about the investing into real estate, but then there are a lot of other funds who are into pharma, healthcare, they're into technology, they're into supporting startup companies, they're into IT. There are very many. So in 2020, there were only about December 19 to March 2020, there were only about 4 to 5 of the investment fund. But since then to today, there are about 40 of them investment funds, which you can look into. Some of them are foreign companies who have entered the Portugal market, but whatever investment they receive, they only to kind of reinvest it in Portugal, in different projects that they have in Portugal. But what it does, it helps you that these companies are of an international standing. These companies are proven in some very good countries before they have ventured into Portugal. There's a history that you can look behind and make your decisions to go in with these funds or not. Also, the fact that you need to know when you're getting yourselves into fund is, of course, these are subject to market risk. But the fact that none of the funds have completed 5 years, and everybody will be going through this cycle for the very first time now after this March 2020. So in that sense, there's no precedent. You know, a lot of clients say, well, I like these funds, I like what they're offering, it meets my requirements, it's got all the good things or the right answers for what I want to invest into. But what is a surety? What is the guarantee? There's no guarantee. We will all have to wait and see on how this goes in for the next 5 years, and your funds have to keep performing for the next 5 years in the Portuguese market. So barring that fine print, you are okay with investing in the funds. Everything has a bit of a risk anyway, so one has to find out on how much of the risk is fine. The other advantage that you have over the real estate and the fund, the real estate will have a lot of paperwork, due diligences, and then, of course, maintaining the property, making sure that it's always let out, making sure that it's been taken care of for the next 5 years. With a fund, you don't have that kind of maintenance coming up because it's a financial instrument. You just buy less paperwork and you wait for the 5 years duration. So there's no after cost or aftercare that's required for you to remain there. Whatever is required is the fund manager's job, and then they have to perform. So if you are a very busy person, if you've got a lot of commitment in your home country, then and you don't really have a lot of time to look into or taking care of the assets per se, then funds can be a good answer. It's a very simplified way. It is also something that you can decide online. You can speak to fund managers and you can make decisions to buy or not to buy a particular fund depending upon, you know, what information you receive. So is with the real estate. Nowadays, there's a lot of companies who are providing you a virtual tours. They're providing you quite a lot of opportunity to exchange units. If you don't like, whenever you enter in, you went to the place, you didn't like a particular unit from that project, but you like B particular unit, they are allowing you to swap those units, etc. But in all fairness, if you're spending this kind of money, the wisdom is to actually go and see the place. I am not convinced, or I personally don't think that a virtual tour is satisfactory enough for any investors to go ahead and do an investment, unless you know the place, or you have some connects there, or you have some friends and family who can go foreign on behalf of you, check things out for you. And if you're convinced, you trust them, then you can go ahead and close the deal online. But other than that, this was one of the reasons why funds became very popular since 2020 March. And, this is very go-to kind of an investment since then. So pre-pandemic, of course, the first one, the real estate would have been your go-to investment. But post-pandemic, I think even after, when the clients instructed us, they started saying that they wanted to go and purchase property because that's what they knew better. And that's what Portugal was also known for. But I think after 2-3 months, they changed their mind to say, we see a lot of good things, but I'm not quite very sure how about going through the bond route. And I've seen they changing their mind and preferring the investment through the fund route. So this has been the first one has, of course, been the investor's choice. The real estate and the bonds have been the popular choices with stable or low risk options. And of course, there's an entrepreneurial way as well to enter Portugal. So in terms of real estate, again, because I'm sure a lot of people still have interest in real estate, if the participants would want to confirm that, they're more interested in real estate, could you say yes if it's about the real estate? So anybody interested in real estate? So I can give more opinion or more practical suggestions for real estate. Could you just write in the chat if real estate is something, or investment in property is something of your interest? You could just say yes if investment in property is something that is more of your interest. Okay, we'll wait for a few minutes to see if there are more people who are interested in property or not. Okay, I think few people are interested in property because it's tangible, isn't it? It's something that you can see for sure that it exists. Brilliant. So we'll touch base about the property. Mostly it's all year around tourism that you see in Portugal, and that's the reason why property is the most lucrative way to do this. And also now with the pandemic and the borders opening up, Portugal again is a place which is gaining popularity very soon. As soon as the borders are opening up, people are looking into entering Portugal for a holiday. They just can't wait to be there. I don't know if people are following up the news. If you go back in about 2 months ago, as soon as UK started unlocking, there was a big rush to enter into Portugal, and a lot of bookings been done around there. So I think people like the sunshine, the beaches, and the good infrastructure, the low cost of living, and just the nice food. So it helps to kind of rent out the property. The possible growth rate is about 10%. Of course, it depends upon the part where you buy in and the demand supply, of course. And easy access is very, very accessible by roads, accessible by airlines or airplanes, etc. And these are some of the popular market, Lisbon, Porto, Algarve, etc., where you can buy in. And if you see these images here, we've kind of shown what can you get in for this price point that you spend. So it's a nice house with a pool and the rooms and a small garden. Then the next one that you see has got a small garden of its own. It's kind of a villa. So again, there's a mixed bag. There's apartments and then there's a villas. But with pandemic, again, you have to think this through, because with pandemic, people don't want to live in apartments. They don't want communal pools. They don't want communal parks. And, you know, somewhere the thoughts were to have my standalone properties where, you know, your kids can have exclusive pools, they can have exclusive parks. And again, this is demand and supply. So there's a lot of apartments which are coming up in Portugal, which means there are less of villas, and therefore there will be a demand for villas down the line. So this is another one way of looking at things as far as you're investing there. And if you're investing in, of course, apartments, etc., you need to check the viability of those there. So some of these investments guarantee you assured returns, assured capital returns, depending upon the project you're entering into. So there are a lot of guarantees that the developer provides you. There are also luxury commercial projects. This is again another something which is interesting that you can look into. Visas. So with all of this, there's also this news everywhere to say that the golden visa is going to change. There's going to be some changes. And what are these changes then? So the changes are that, you know, now you cannot buy after from 1st of January 2022, you cannot buy in high density areas like Lisbon, Porto, and Algarve. You can only make an investment in a low density areas. The investment amount increases from 350,000 to 500,000 in real estate. So wherever it was 350, that should be the purchase amount. It will increase to 500,000. Where it was 500,000 will increase to almost a million. And but this will not stop you from investing in commercial properties in Lisbon and Porto. So you are still all right. And the fact that, you know, the government will encourage to invest in low density areas, which means the investment amount will be 280,000 euros only, which is again good, because mandatorily all the investors will be driven to do in low density areas to make that as a popular market. It's a very ideal scenario to get your foot in the door at a lower price and into something that will grow eventually, where most of these places are looking into getting a better capital appreciation, because Lisbon and Porto to a very great extent anyway was saturated over the period of time. And this is something that the government also realized. And somewhere this is working in your favor. So somewhere in disguise, these changes are in favor of the investor when they are looking into getting a program at a very entry level. So we touch base, the minimum investment, of course, in the fund will increase from 350 to 500. But originally, if you go back in time and you see the history of fund, they originally had been always in 500,000 euros investment. But then they brought this down to 350. And now in the last 1 year, more than 1 year, it's done so well. It's done so well. There's the highest number of investment happened in investment fund all over the globe, basically more from US actually. And on come 1st January 2022, this increases from 350 to 500K. The existing investment, which I just spoke about, which were at 350, will increase to 500. And the investment in research increases to 500K. And of course, the investor visa, which is at 1 million, will increase to 1.5 million. So this is the difference from then and now. The real estate, as I said, crosses, and again, you're not allowed to buy in high density areas. And No changes for the low density area, so there's no panic if you're already only looking low density area. But if you're looking for investment funds, then that's going to change from 350 to 500,000 euros. So how does SmartMove help? SmartMove, first of all, you retain our services based on your budget, based on your preferences, based on what you're looking out for. We help you to pick up the right investments. There are a lot of good deals that we have got through for our clients, where we've got a waive off in registrations, we've got waive off in stamp duties, we've got waive off in municipality charges. We've also got them refurbished white goods in their units that they've brought in. So it's important that we get them good deals and as far as possible good discounts as well for them to get into the program. We've really looked into all the clients' personal interest here as though we were investing into our funds there. So we try to get you the best deals and the best of the investments that are available, because we do it so regularly. Now that the borders are opening up, you can also consider visiting Portugal to view these properties or to view these investments before you get yourself into it, especially the real estate investments. You exchange contracts, you make your investment, and then you start the application for your golden visas. And now that everything has been digitalized, you can actually have this virtual card available. So the way this works is the first stage takes you about 3 to 6 months, might take a little longer because it's still having a lot of backlog of applications given the pandemic. It's taking a little longer, honestly speaking. So the first stage nearly is taking about 9 months to a year to complete it. You renew your residency after the first year, and then on the third year, and then on the fifth year, you get your citizenship. So here is where we have our experience and expertise to advise you. We can help you with the whole of the process, handhold you till you get through your final goal. This is our contact details on your screens here. You can reach out to our associates, and they can help you to initiate and help you to start with this process of investments in Portugal. With this, we